And we're live. Pep Talk Boys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe on this Tuesday night live stream where we're going to discuss all the weekend action. Plus, looking forward to yet another heavyweight fight week. It's going to be big. It's going to be explosive because Derek Chisora is in town for his second fight, the rematch against Joseph Parker. I done a live stream for the original fight. I remember being on with Lady Chan and Kenny Ken and Jay. I think Benji was even on at the time. Avanesian. And Derek Chisora, I apologize. But the thing is, what I want to bring up is a lot of people said, and we'll speak to Kenny about this. He's going to join us in about 10, 15 minutes. A lot of people have criticised the first fight, saying it was a boring fight. It weren't very exciting. I'm in the minority. I don't think it was as bad as people were saying. If there hadn't been a rematch, I'm a massive Derek Chisora fan. And obviously we know Kenny's views on Derek Chisora, and he'll tell us that a little bit later. But did there really need to be a rematch? No. It wasn't a robbery, but it was close. I think I had Derek. On the night I had Derek. I haven't watched it back since. But I love Derek, so I like to see him get the opportunity once again on a very, very big show in Manchester, the last one of the Matchroom's calendar year. It's a big card. We'll go through that later. Gutted that Buatsi Vlasov's not on it because that would have been a fantastic fight. Buatsi Vlasov, it was a sleeper in world boxing. A lot of people believe Vlasov beat Joe Smith Jr. And for Buatsi to fight what could have been the WBO light heavyweight champion if he'd got that decision against Joe Smith Jr., it's a very, very, very big step up, and I really do hope that gets rescheduled when Buatsi is back. He's back. But elsewhere, you've got hard fights all over, big step ups across the card, and you've got the likes of Jordan Thompson, who was fantastic in his knockout win on the 30th of October on that O2 card that ended up being headlined by Chantel Cameron. And then, but the fights are, for me, Kongora versus Richards. That is Lerone Richards. Massive step up against Kongora. It's a really, really tough fight. That's a 50-50 fight for me. Barrett versus Torimo. Great fight. Another big step up for Barrett. We've seen what Kiko Martinez has gone on and done since then by knocking out Kid Galahad on that live stream I was doing last. It was the last watch along I done, and that was a crazy fight. That was thrilling to watch. And then we've got Jack Cullen versus Sadiq for the European title. What a story Jack Cullen is this year. I'm so glad for him that he's getting the opportunities. He's getting the fights, getting a European title shot. The guy beat Avni Yildirim, who just fought Canelo. That's so, come on. Little Lever's meat cleaver, come on. You got Sandy Ryan. Again, another great prospect. Alan Babbage has been added to the card. And might I add, on Friday night, on a Fight Zone show, Dave Allen's fighting. It's a very much lesser opponent, but he said next year he wants to get back up into that domestic-ish mix, and maybe everyone wants that Alan Babbage fight. I think fans of Alan and David certainly do. But here we go. The question is that I've started off the live chat is Ben the next pay-per-view star from Britain? Because if he stays with his own, obviously he won't be a pay-per-view star, but that capacity where he could quite easily move over to Sky or BT and headline a pay-per-view. Obviously, at the minute, he's not, unless he probably fights a massive name in Britain, probably Amir Khan. Probably Kell Brooks, a pay-per-view quality fight. Still a massive fight. Two very, very big names. And we see the draw of Amir Khan versus Kell Brooks. It's sold out the fastest, I think, ever a sporting event sold out in Manchester or maybe even the UK, which is absolutely amazing. But we'll talk about what's next with Kenny for Conor Benn, because he's in a bit of a hard situation. Look, we got Albanian boxer 555. Good evening, Albanian boxer. He won't fight David Avanesian. And I personally don't think he should fight David Avanesian next. One after, possibly. But I think the fact that Conor and Eddie have quite openly said they don't want that fight has led a lot of people to believe, oh yeah, if Conor gets in with David Avanesian, his head gets knocked off. When that I don't think is necessarily the case, because David Avanesian was hurt in the second round against Josh Kelly, and obviously turning it around. It was kind of part of the game plan with David Avanesian. Fantastic fight that was for performance from David Avanesian at the start of the year. I remember it was not going well for Matchroom. Josh Warrington had just lost. Josh Kelly had lost. It weren't going well for them. And David Avanesian, for me, is due a world title shot. I think they've gone their separate ways now. Avanesian side with Frank Warren. He's just been mandated to fight Virgil Ortiz, which would be an absolute barn burner. That'd be brilliant. And it's gonna be tough for Conor. Adrian Broner's being mentioned, and I really like that fight. I'll be honest. I would have had that fight instead of Chris Algieri, though. I think Conor Benn probably takes out Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner in the country would be brilliant, though. If that fight is made at the O2 in London, home for Conor, Adrian brings it. It's 50-50 with Adrian. If he will bring not just the fighting aspect, but brings the brash Broner that a lot of people loved when he was coming up before the controversies of Adrian Broner. So for me, that's a brilliant fight. I think Conor wins. A tough fight. Neutral corner's coming in saying Kavalauskas. Eastern Bloc Kavalauskas, the mean machine. Another one we'll discuss with Kenny, but that's a tough fight. That's a really tough fight. That's again, I put that in the bracket of David Avanesian. One before. I think it should be one before. I've heard Robert Guerrero in the mixed. Victor Ortiz. Again, that's a little bit too low for me. So it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really, really, really hard for Conor's next fight. If it's not Broner. Broner kind of makes sense to me. And to everyone, really. Denis Ugas has been thrown in the hat. Again, that's another fight away. For me, I think, why rush Conor when he's improving at this rate? And I think Conor will carry on improving because against Chris Algieri, obviously, that was his best performance. That third round, obviously, we know it was the vicious, brilliant knockout in the fourth. But it's... The third round was a boxing lesson. His head movement, his upper body movement was brilliant. His jab was brilliant. His left hook to the body was immense that night. He's just learning with Tony Sims. I've been listening to a few experts over the last few days about Conor. And I think a big help is he's surrounded by the seasoned amateurs, the seasoned boxers, the Joe Cordinas, the Felix Cashes of the world. And he's gaining experience not only on fight night, not only in sparring, but through watching these elite level boxers in the gym. And he's got something different which they haven't got. He's got that natural talent, hasn't he? Obviously, we know Cordina's got the talent, like unbelievable, but obviously he's had the schooling, something that Conor Benn hasn't got, and he's got that natural ferocity. He's got the killer instinct, but something I will go into with Kenny Ken later, and let us know what you think. Is I really respect Conor. for not punching him as he was going down, that Chris Algieri, because he wasn't touching down. It would have been a legal punch, but he was out. He was out bad, wasn't he? And after the controversy with Bradley Skeet and Hamza Shiraz the other day, we just don't want any more of those, because we don't want a case where the British Boxing Board of Control get involved again. And in Chris Algieri, you don't want to be having a rematch with Chris Algieri. He's 37 years old, and I think that fight sold at that time, but I don't think it would have again, especially if it was a no contest. It would have been horrible, because with the fact of what happened last week, they may have just, that the boxing board and the referee may have been over eager to maybe disqualify someone or give it a no contest. So I'm really glad, and I really respect Conor for not punching him. He held back on a shot, which I think's brilliant. And then again, the neutral corner, there is no gatekeeper at 147, and then comes in with Maurice Hooker. Maurice Hooker's a great shout, actually. A really, really, really great shout. Great shout. Sorry, I know Shiraz has offered to rematch Skeet, but it doesn't take away from the facts of the way that ended. And obviously, I haven't really spoken there. I was at the fight on the night, and I'll just quickly say what I've got to say about that one. And Shiraz, no fault. Like, I don't think it was malicious from Shiraz, but he was losing the fight, man. He was getting outboxed. It was a beautiful performance from Bradley Skeet. He really did roll back the years, and he looked like an Ingle fighter in such a short amount of time. He really did look like a schooled Ingle fighter, someone who'd been fighting out of Winklebank for years, growing up there. So you kind of imagine, like, it makes you think, what would Bradley Skeet be like if he fought with that style his whole career? So that was really interesting. But yeah, Hamza Shiraz should have been disqualified. He probably should have been disqualified, and I don't like to make judgments like that, but looking back at it, it was nasty. It was really, really nasty. So, not malicious from him, although I think the disqualification word obviously brings connotations with cheating and like viciousness, especially in boxing. When I don't think it's vicious, I think it's instinct, it's frustration, a massive part of frustration, that when you're being outboxing, you got that opportunity, because it was an opportunity, he was hurt, and something comes out of that, your head is just, get rid of this guy. And what a great contrast it was for Lomachenko this week in Richard Comey. We'll get to that again later, whether you like that or not. I've heard some really polarizing opinions on that through pundits who I respect their opinions. It's going to be interesting, but I like that Maurice Hooker fight. Back to the 147. Maurice Hooker, he's a tricky fighter. I think that one would be really interesting for the first 4 rounds. And then I think Conor would get to it. I really like Maurice Hooker. Or maybe we get a really, really talented 140 move up. Potentially. Obviously not Josh Taylor levels, but I don't know. Like, if you... 2 massive stars I'd love to happen Monday. I'm not saying anywhere now, but I'm just thinking out loud. If Montana Love moves up, he missed weight. He will eventually move up. He's got that charisma about him that Conor's got. In 4 or 5 years' time at 147, what a fight that would be if they keep progressing the way they are. Because I love Montana Love. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's class. When he fought on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, he was brilliant that night. He really was, and he's coming out party, wasn't it? And then off the back of that, Matchroom signed him, missed weight on his first fight, but still looked good in the fight. So big 2022 for Montana Love, and hopefully maybe in a few years' time if they're one of them stars. But I think in the 147 division, they've got all of the big fighters, especially the young guns, Jaron Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, and I suppose you're beginning to put Conor Benn in that young gun giant mix. I just pray that they're not afraid to lose too much. And if and when they do lose, because they will lose, no one will go undefeated. they come back from it well, and you've got to question their mental state, and that's what will be a test for Connor, I think. Not because I question his mental state or anything like that. I just think his character. He's got to accept defeat, and if he can do that, then wow, the guy will be a world champion, in my opinion, because it's so important about the mentality, especially when you're in a division. Look, Manny Pacquiao. I know he wasn't a career 147. He's an 8th division world champion, but Manny Pacquiao lost fights, and he's still up there as one of the greatest of all time. So, in my opinion, anyway, he's my favourite of all time. But I'm not saying that's the greatest. Favourites and greatest are two very, very different things. But I think anyone's got to put him up there and probably like the top 25, 30 of all time. And that's being conservative about it. Mickelson Benn will be a good fight. Good fight won't happen. Conor Benn doesn't gain anything from that, and I don't think it'd be an exciting fight. It wouldn't be a fan-friendly fight. I really like Michael Mickelson. I really hope he gets a big fight. I saw Eddie Hearn put on his Instagram, I think Thursday of last week, that there's big news coming from Mickelson very soon. I think he last fought on a fight camp show. I think take him abroad. He isn't like a huge ticket seller. He isn't a huge name in the UK. Take him abroad to a matchroom show, and David Avanesian, like Mickelson Avanesian. If Mickelson really wants to throw the dice, but again, then it's Avanesian doesn't need that fight. It's going to be really, really hard for Mickelson. I really don't know about Mickelson. We shall see with him, because that is an interesting one. I love Mickelson versus Echo Esserman. Obviously, two different promotional companies in Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, Queensbury Matchroom, but I think that's a great fight, because the awkward, tricky style, the neat style, the get the job done style of Michael Mickelson against he's a bit of an all-rounder, Echo Esserman, isn't he? But he really does bring the fire when he needs to, as we saw against Chris Jenkins. For me, that's a good fight in the 147 division. But we're talking domestically now, and Connor's that level up now, and he skipped the domestic level, and questionable why he done that. But it's kind of like he come out of COVID just like a different fighter. You look, Formella, Vargas, Granados, Algieri. That's a run, like really steady paced, but it's skipping them out. Mickelson Marku, that's a great shout, Albanian boxer. That's a great shout. Mickelson versus Marku. Yeah. But Marku has moved down, which is a big thing, because I was speaking to Stephen McKenna, who really, really wants the Florian Marku fight. Stephen McKenna, he fought on the Hennessy show on Friday night, got a first round stoppage, and he is a real talent. Him and his brother, the McKennas, Stevie and Aaron McKenna, wow. At lightweight and welterweight, they could certainly do things. And Stephen McKenna, Michael Mickelson, that's a fantastic fight. That I think McKenna will be a very, very avoided person, and obviously people in the boxing circles know how good he is. So I pray to God that he gets a big fight in 2022, because he certainly talented. I think he's 11-0 now, or 12-0. I think he's got 9 knockouts, and that one, I think he was against Jack Eubank. He was a late replacement, stepped in at 24 hours notice, because his opponent, which was meant to be for the WBC youth title, ended up being 16 pounds overweight. That is crazy. So obviously they had to bring in another opponent. He hasn't fought anyone decent. McKenna versus Proden. Remember, he was 19-0 with 17 KOs. No, definitely. I really, really think that's an underrated win, Proden, because when that got announced, because originally it was meant to be on the fight camp show, I thought, wow, that's a really tough fight for Marku. So I really rate that win for Marku. And obviously the Italian judge, that was crazy. But McKenna Proden, yeah. I don't think there's a market for it really. Italy versus Ireland. You got to think business wise as well as fight wise in these situations. Maybe, yeah. But McKenna, really, really good, and I really do rate him. Lovely lad as well. And then Katie Taylor as well. We'll start moving down the card. Katie Taylor, she's come under quite a bit of criticism, and I don't know why. She's been so active, hasn't she? She's moved to 20-0 now. I think it's her 14th. That was her 14th title fight, and title fight is in world title fight. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like you've taken title shots and against champions. She's fought champions in hard fights as well. She's had kind of easier fights. Sharapova was probably one of them, but Sharapova brought it. She was rugged. She was tough, certainly for the first 3-4 rounds. You get the feeling that Taylor's doing enough now to get the wins, but she loves the big occasions, and she wants the Serrano fight. She really wants the Serrano fight. Albanian boxer, I don't really want to talk about that one because I don't want to get sued. But yeah, read that comment below, anyone, and you can find that out for yourself. You can I don't know, have a clue about that, but yeah, we'll leave that one for today unless anything bigger comes out. But Taylor Serrano is the fight that I think everyone wants. I think it is the biggest. Right? It is. Someone said it is the Mayweather Pacquiao of the female boxing. Yeah, probably. I think Serrano probably could be favourite now. When they was originally meant to fight in Manchester, I think it was in April of 2019 or late March when Povetkin was originally meant to fight Dillian Whyte way before Dillian Whyte even got knocked out fight camp that year. I think Taylor was a pretty firm favourite, but people seem to think that Taylor is declining. She may be, but I don't think she's showed any of it yet. She's adjusted her style because of her age and because don't forget, she was an amateur for so long. It's not like she's a fresh 20, but she's adapted her style to work with her and her body. She's adapted training. So just because someone does that, I don't think it means they're declining. I think it just means they're learning, and I think it means that they would. They're being smart, aren't they, about prolonging someone's career and making sure they get the big fights. Again, Kamil Sokolovsky versus Babic. He's underrated, and he beat Adelaide. George Fox almost beat Dax for on 4 days' notice. Well, the thing is, if that's Darks, I think that's Dakers you're referring to. If it is, the Dakers fight was scheduled for quite a while with Kamil Sokolovsky in Liverpool. That's a fantastic performance from Dakers, and that's a real sign of intent. But if you're Alan Babic, you don't want to fight Kamil Sokolovsky at all. Kamil Sokolovsky is a dangerous opponent. He's the road warrior. And yeah, that's a tough fight, isn't it, for Babic? It's a tough fight for anyone who's outside of anyone who's below British title level. I genuinely believe that because I was at the Yard Arthur fight and he was just whacking the over-the-top right hand with George Fox and he couldn't miss with him by the end. I don't know whether that's down to George Fox. He was very overconfident that night. It was very odd. It was very, very odd, that. But, yeah, no. Sokolovsky he's really tough. And there was a young lad, I forget his name, but he lost to Sokolovsky. He was on the Channel 5 card, or he wasn't live on Channel 5, but he was on that Hennessy Sports show. I forget his name now, but he lost to Sokolovsky. He was undefeated. There's little losses. Nick Webb, like they creep in there with Sokolovsky, and Sokolovsky needs to be careful because who do you put him in against? Because it's a really big risk. And if you're in boxing, then you know. But to the casuals, you look at his record, you think, oh bloody hell, this is a journeyman. When this guy's not a journeyman, he's a road warrior. And great win for Sokolovsky against George Fox. You can tell I think he kind of expected that he might have got robbed, like he may or may not have been against David Adelaide. But David Adelaide rematch is a great one. I'm trying to think now. Sokolovsky versus Johnny Fisher. I'd still give Johnny a few fights because you've got to be able to really, I think, box Sokolovsky. That's how you beat him. I'm just trying to think now. Who else? Sokolovsky, Tommy Welch, again, kind of in the same boat as Johnny Fisher. I was talking to John Hedges about it today. Check out our interview with Johnny Hedges. I spoke to him last week, but the interview come out today. And he was saying about Tommy Welch versus Johnny Fisher off camera to me. In a few years, that'd be a great British title fight. Or even Southern Area title fight. Fabio Wardley, like, he's moving up, then they're kind of underneath that. Babbage underneath that. It kind of looks like at the minute we've got a little British conveyor belt going on. So it's up to the likes of Adelaide, Fisher, Welch to carry on that conveyor belt. There's quite a bit of pressure because we kind of had Hay, then the conveyor belt moves on to Fury, conveyor belt moves down. You got Joshua White come up, and you had David Price coming up before that. I know he didn't reach the levels, and then you've got Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois coming up behind these now. So there's a conveyor belt of British heavyweights at the minute. It'd be fantastic to carry it on. Obviously, you could say it started with Lennox, but the thing is with Lennox there was a gap. I know you had Audley Harrison, but let's be real, Audley Harrison didn't have a world-class professional career. I think he was the kind of fighter that peaked as an amateur. He peaked at the Olympics and obviously won gold medal, which he actually changed British boxing, and that's a conversation for another time because he managed to gain the funding, which has led us to so many medals. Obviously, all the medals we got in the 2000, what was meant to be the 2020 Olympics that happened in 2021. And we're seeing names now. We're seeing those Olympians start to sign up. We've seen Pat and Luke McCormack. We see Pete McGrail's 2-0, for Christ's sake. We got Fraser Clark signed with Sky Sports and Boxer. Be really interesting to see what Lauren Price and Kerry Sartenstall does. Albanian Boxer 555, the Eastern Europeans wants all the smoke with the prospects. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It is. There's a big debate, which for me, that's a whole show about bringing in Eastern European fighters as your first couple of fights, moving on before you get to title level, 8-rounders, etc., or having your journeyman, having your Peter Buckleys. You know, there's an argument for both. Personally, I like the journeyman, the traditional British journeyman, the Peter Buckleys of the world, and just because the man had 300 fights and he only got knocked out, I think it's like 12 of them, and you knew that they were there to earn money because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of Eastern Europeans. Kamil Sokolovsky, the main one at the minute, who bring it every single time, but there's some that don't. Some of them want their way out, and it's frustrating. At least with some of these, like the traditional journeymen, you knew they were in there, and you know they weren't coming to win, but they were coming to put up a good fight. They knew the score, they knew what was happening. Thinking of people like that now, Brett Fido, he always comes. Louis Van Pooch, he always comes and brings it, doesn't he? But yeah, it's going to be interesting now to see what happens and where a lot of these British boxers go, because although there's a lot of money floating about in boxing now, so a lot in British boxing, there's a lot of promotional companies, and we spoke about before. We pray to God these work together. Probellum had their first show, didn't they? On Saturday night in Dubai, Coca-Cola Arena. Shame for Paul Butler. He was meant to have his world title fight. for numerous reasons, it didn't materialize. Meant to have 2 fights. Boxing World, the Eastern European, gave Eubank Jr. a tough test. Oh, 100%. But I'm talking about just like levels below. I'm talking about then, especially when you go to smaller shows, the levels below. Like, but sorry, just back to Sonny Edwards. Great performance over Jason Marmer. Probably like after round 6, he really started to get into his stride. Sonny Edwards, and be the Sonny Show Edwards we all know and love, because he, if you like the art of boxing, then you love Sonny Edwards. He's brilliant to watch, just in and out. And he obviously had to suffer that big cut. It was a big gash on top of his head. Thankfully, it didn't affect his boxing ability. And now he wants Martinez, doesn't he? Good fight. Really, really good fight. Does it happen at the minute? No. Martinez probably going to have a rematch with Arroyo after their no contest. Martinez wants him out of the way. They've been scheduled to fight 2 or 3 times. It didn't happen for various reasons. Then when they finally did get it on, it was a no contest, which is always, always, always frustrating. And so I'd love to see that fight. But will it happen? Realistically, at the minute, no, because I was listening to Barry Jones today, and he said if they move him up to Superfly, Eddie, that is, then he gets the legacy fights. It's kind of like fight Sonny Edwards for the Ring Magazine title and big unification in the flyweight division, or maybe step up and fight Saul Francisco Rangvazai, Estrada, Chocolatito. These are legends of modern boxing at the minute, especially Chocolatito. He's fantastic, and to have that name on your record, and he'll come to win. Martinez definitely, he's a big flyweight, really, really big flyweight. The best fight in recent times is Inoue versus Donaire. Inoue got his knockout today. Rather, I haven't managed to catch up on it yet. But Inoue Donaire, yeah, let's have a rematch of that, please. That was really good. But don't forget, he had a really big injury to his retina throughout that fight. So Inoue. So would it be easier this time for Inoue? Would he knock it out Donaire with both eyes, 0 pain in the eye? Because we all know how powerful these injuries to the retinas are, because we've seen it with Daniel Dubois, Billy Joe Saunders, just in the past 14 months or whatever. So that's another really big topic. But let's talk about heavyweights then. Eddie Hearn's in Saudi, isn't he? He's having a look. He's certainly, I think he's in Saudi anyway, but he's certainly in the Middle East, and he is negotiating. Apparently, he's negotiating Anthony Joshua versus Usyk, the rematch. Apparently, he's negotiating Tyson Fury versus Dillian White. Don't know if it's him who should be negotiating for that one. But surely, I know you won't say it, but he's got to be having a little word, seeing how much money's there for Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Will there be step-asides? Because step-asides have all over been heard for the past 10 days. If there's enough money in it, it will happen. Do I think it will personally happen? No. I don't think anyone would give AJ 45 million for not fighting him, especially if there's a guarantee that you fight the winner. There's got to probably be a 2-fight deal where Tyson Fury is concerned, although I do think Tyson Fury does probably take out Alexander Usyk. And if he doesn't beat Usyk, he is finished. Who's that, Joshua or Fury? If Joshua doesn't beat Usyk, I don't think he's finished. It'll be very, very hard for him, and it'll be down to his mental state. But I think he will fight on. I think he'd probably go straight in. If he was clever about it, he'd go straight into a trilogy fight with Ruiz Jr. If he lost that fight, that makes the most sense. And then you've got 2 options. You go back after the belts once they've been undisputed. Hopefully, if that happens, if Fury fights Usyk or Usyk fights why? If obviously we don't know what's happening there, you can either go for the belts or you can go for the legacy fights that haven't happened yet, i.e., most notably Deontay Wilder. That the first is still there for that fight. That is still a huge, huge, huge fight. It's the best of the rest, isn't it? If that happens, it is the best of the rest, and that's what we like, and that's what it's a second tier heavyweight fight this weekend in Derek Chisora versus Joseph Parker, the rematch. But it kind of creates a clearer path to see who the top 10 are. Do you count Derek Chisora as a top 10? Now, at the minute, borderline, probably top 15. But don't forget, I don't think he's won since... Is it July 2019? I'm trying to think. No, October 2019. I think his last win was in David Price. Obviously, then he fought Usyk. Great performance, don't get me wrong. He really made a good account of himself. But he did lose that one. Then he had the close one against Joseph Parker. So he's still out there. His 10 victories, still going strong, like old Derek. But if he loses considerably, like if he gets stopped, does he retire? Is it then the time where he finally retires? Because there's a part of me that thinks even if he gets knocked spark out, you still carry on because that's Derek Chisora. But he's so unpredictable. He's so unpredictable. And just seeing when Kenny will be joining us. But Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk then. They were both at Lomachenko's fight, and we'll cover Lomachenko's fight in a bit as well this weekend. It's all laughs and smiles because there's a lot of respect between those. But I really do think Usyk is the type of person that size him up, having a little look, which he done with AJ. He's so smart, Usyk. And so is Fury. Fury knew what was going on. But I reckon they definitely chatted to get gauging if the fight's going to happen. At the minute, I don't think it is. But you never know with boxing, as we saw with Fury Wilder 3, and as we saw with Fury Joshua not happening. That was meant to happen on like 27th of August, guys. Like, it's crazy. This year in boxing is crazy. I'm going to do a boxing cover, a boxing recap of the whole year in between Christmas and New Year. So make sure you tune in for that. As long as Fight of the Year, Fighter of the Year, Prospect of the Year, one to look out for next year, Knockout of the Year, and all the usual awards to go out. But great that there was respect there, especially on Bob Arum's 90th birthday and Lomachenko's great, brilliant performance against Richard Commey, who I've rated Richard Commey for a very, very long time now, and I thought it would be not a tough fight, but I thought he'd give him a bigger test than he did. But I think that just shows the class. And Albanian boxer 555 Tank lost his last fight, and I'm the biggest Tank fan boy. I disagree. I think he won that fight. I really do think he won that fight by 2 points. Yes, but if you look who had the best performance of the past 3 weeks, obviously Devin Haney. You take away the unification fight out of it because that was obviously crazy, the Kambosos Lopez fight. But away from that, if you have a look at Haney, if you have a look at Davis, and you have a look at Lomachenko, and all three of them have fought in the past 2 weeks. Lomachenko, I think, stands out as the performance. Haney and Davis both got hit. Certain points more than he should have. Haney, in Haney's point of view, but Davis has always he's never been like a Lomachenko in the way that you can't hit him. But he's been clever, and now he's coming across as like a seasoned pro. He's really developing. I know he's like a freeweight. Well, he's either a one-weight world champion or a freeweight world champion. However you look at the titles he's held and whatever manner you hold them in. But again, it's it's very, very interesting to see how the lightweight division is going to play out. Please, 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 God, can we get Kambosos versus Haney? Let's put the franchise champion situation to bed once and for all. Please, 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 because no one wants it. No one wants to hear about it anymore. We just want one undisputed champion. And then as soon as we get it, all the belts will fragment anyway, because I think if Haney wins, he'll move up, and Kambosos, he'll have to deal with a hell of a lot of mandatories. But all these lightweights, the so-called the four kings, the Lopez, Haney, Garcia. Obviously, Garcia hasn't fought since the first week in January. And who am I missing out? And Gervonta Davis. All of them. Well, Davis has been fight. His past two fights have been at 140. Lopez, I don't believe will ever fight at 135 again. He's now a 140 pounder. Haney's got 2 fights at 135 left. Maximum, I think he'll probably only have 1, and that will probably be, if he's not Kambosos, if he can't get a big fight, he'll move up to 140 anyway. And it all depends what Josh Taylor does. I think there's a lot of lightweights waiting to see what Josh Taylor does, so they can maneuver themselves into a mandatory position for one of the 4 belts. The belts will fragment at some point, because Josh Taylor will move up at some point, and I just can't wait. I cannot wait for Josh Taylor versus Catterall. That's a fight that I really hope I'm at, because Josh Taylor's one of my favourite boxers from Britain of all time at the minute. He's so good, and he's so strong at 140. And it'd be really interesting, because at the minute he just looks like too big, too strong. Sounding like Carl Froch now, but too big, too strong for every single 140. And will that be the case in 147? I doubt it, especially when you've got big 147s. And obviously the name that comes to mind is Errol Spence. And we've also seen Keith Thurman, obviously looks like he's coming back against Barrios. That will be an interesting fight, which it looks like to be January. I don't think that's a pay-per-view. But when you look at, again, the 147 division is coming full circle. 147 is such a tough division. You mentioned the gatekeepers. But here we go. We got Kenny Ken. He's in the waiting room. And let's get him in. Kenny!
Joe, I am so sorry. There's been it's been, that thing we were telling you backstage that happened, family things from abroad. Plus there's all sorts of situations going on. So
no worries, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm really, really sorry. I should have been here about 45 minutes ago. Should have been here about at least half an hour ago. But yeah, it had to be resolved because it's conversations.
It certainly does. It certainly does. But thank you for coming on, Ken. And it's been a while. Are you all right?
I'm all good. It's just, what it is. It's just boxing's been brilliant. I know you probably covered everything. I know you covered Conor Benn and Chris Algieri. Yes. You probably covered the future fights. You're also going to probably talk about Dillian White and Tyson Fury in terms of the split, and also we've gone from one extreme to another. What we've done is that last few months before in the summer, it was the undisputed, i.e. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua.
Exactly.
Anthony Joshua's lost. All of a sudden, we're now telling Anthony Joshua and Dillian White to put holes in their careers, because all of a sudden, Usyk's the next best thing since sliced bread. So once again, we're basically encouraging people like Bob Arum and Frank Warren, not Eddie Hearn this time, to actually put people's careers on hold. Ignore the fact that there's been like arbitration that states that Dillian White and Tyson Fury have to fight. Ignore the fact that Usyk signed a a clause to have a rematch. Forget all that, because at the end of the day, the public want an undisputed between Tyson Fury and blah blah, without even considering that you have to build that fight. You can't build that undisputed unless Tyson Fury fights Dillian White and Usyk wins the rematch. Because if Tyson Fury wins his fight and Usyk wins the rematch, you build it, you make more money, you get a public interest. Tyson Fury
Yeah.
does not sell as many tickets as Anthony Joshua. He just doesn't.
No, definitely not.
Sorry.
Not in the UK.
Sorry,
Not in
mate.
the UK.
Yeah.
But
sorry, but it's...
I spoke to Dean White on Friday. He'd just come back from the US, and I said to him, the last time I spoke to you, Dean, you still didn't think the fight would happen. Do you think it will happen now? And he said he still don't think that fight's going to happen between.
You mean Dean White? Well, the Hat Man says that he's got no confidence as well, because what's happened right now is that Tyson, there's nothing to say that Dean White should get a 45% purse bid. What they reckon is that they reckon Dean White's going to be offered only as little as 15 to 20%. So again, they said the fight has to happen, but when are they going to sit down and discuss purses?
Yeah, but again, that with the percentage, it's up to the WBC, obviously, because it's a mandatory. Because it can be, it can be anything from 10 to 40%, but that is usually up to the WBC. But because there is and still is ongoing arbitration, then that is probably what it is for. Because he probably wants compensation for waiting so long. So
who's that? Dillian.
Dillian.
Well,
but there's just one thing that I don't want to happen, Kenny, because I was just speaking about it in the lightweight division. There's what I just so badly don't want it to be a franchise champion, and then you're having the same debate as is Kambosos the undisputed champion or is Haney the WBC champion. You can't have that in heavyweight division. You cannot have a franchise champion.
You forgot about the biggest elephant in the room when you're discussing lightweight. Didn't you see that beautiful display of performance from Lomachenko? I mean, it's like you know, we it's only a couple of weeks ago we had a debate about who do we believe is our Pam event. He loses to Lopez. He all of a sudden he's out of our pound for pound fighters. He's out.
Yeah.
He issued a reminder of how good he is, and that everyone, Kambosos, he's going to fight everyone and everyone who matters, but because he's got the undisputed belts. But hang on here, Loma, the biggest fight out there for Kambosos Jr. is getting Loma out to Australia. That is the main fight.
I disagree, Ken. I disagree. I think Haney is a bigger fight in Australia than Lomachenko, just for the fact that it is the big undisputed fight. And I don't think any champion will want to fight Lomachenko because he's the best. I still believe he's the best lightweight.
Oh yeah, he is. He showed it as well. But eventually,
he isn't the massive name. Yeah, because the only way, because if you look now, Ken, I think he's working his way as a mandatory for the WBO. So, and the WBO are going to be calling a mandatory very, very soon. It's literally it could be before Kambosos makes a defense. So that is very, very big because we really don't want a situation where then belts fragment again before we get an official undisputed champion. So I pray to God we can quickly get a Kambosos Haney fight over the line, whether that be in Australia or Vegas or anywhere, and then you start looking at mandatories.
Yeah, the thing about it, all right. Do you want Gervonta Davis to fight Lomachenko then?
That's for me. If I had to pick one fight out of all the fights, like out of looking at the whole top 10 lightweights, if I had to pick one fight that I want, it would be Lomachenko versus Davis. That is for me.
That is what
that is for me. The fight, but it won't happen.
But the thing about it is that, again, in terms of making that fight, Lomachenko's got a big name in America. I still think that, whether the fighters want to avoid him or not, I expect by the end of the next calendar year he'll be getting all his belts back. I expect that to happen.
Yeah,
one way or another, he'll be getting all his belts.
At least one of the belts. At least one of the belts.
I think the matchmakers, what they're trying to do with the heavyweight titles, i.e., bypassing the contenders and just saying, right, let's just have disputes. I can't see anything, but allowing him to have the opportunity to do that. I expect us by this time next year, we'll be talking about an undisputed if it hasn't happened already, and that Lomachenko will be reclaiming his belts, and that Teofimo Lopez will not be fighting at 135. He'll be fighting.
No, he will never fight at number.
He'll fight at he'll fight in the welterweight division, where I still think he's a great fighter. And I don't.
147.
I think. Well, I think he'll be fighting at. Was it 140? Where is it? They're talking at 140.
Yeah, light welter.
No, I never said the 147. I said 140.
Oh,
I meant 140.
Sorry.
Yeah. So what he said, I can only see him fight at 140. Because I think, and because I think he's about right. I think he's probably too small for 147. But saying that, Lomachenko at 135, he will be the man at 135. I'm convinced of it. I can't see anything else happening. He's the best.
Does he beat Gervonta Davis?
Yes. And the reason why he beats Gervonta Davis is two reasons. It's not about what he would do on the front foot. It's what he could do on the back foot. He's one of the best back foot fighters in the business, just like his mate from Ukraine, Usyk. And when you're at a situation where you're trying to get someone tied up with the ropes, you've got all your positions. He will not allow you in a position where you will let your hands go, because what people tend to do when they have people in the ropes is that they know the right thing to do, the right thing and the wrong thing to do is throw straight punches. But the problem with people do is they throw straight punches and they do that. If you're going to throw a straight punch, if you've got someone on the ropes, you throw a straight punch, then you come in and then you go up. See what's going to happen with Lomachenko is they are going to get in the ropes. But what will happen is that he's got good feet. He goes down low. He's got good head movement. Plus, he lets his hands go as well. He lets his hands go. And one of the signature moves, which I think will get him out of trouble, will be the backhand, which he'll use to get him out of trouble, and then that will make the fighter think twice about coming forward. Because I think what will discourage Lomachenko's opponents is that they won't get him on the ropes. They won't come forward because they're running the risk of getting met with combos on the back foot. Yeah. No, and I think what's happened. Another thing.
Go on, sorry, Ken.
My thing, if you get Lomachenko hurt, just get him out of there. Get him out of there, or you're going to regret it.
For me, with that fight, as I say, that's the one fight I'd love, and it won't happen, but I just love it. But I think it's so close, that fight for me. But I literally, by 1%, I have it literally 51-49% in Davis's favour. I really do, because I just think if he lands.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Are you looking at the fact that even though he fought with one arm, blah blah, he was still beaten. It was still a close fight. Are you looking at the fact that he's lost two fights already? Are you looking at the fact that he is beautiful, or are you just looking at the attributes of Tank?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm looking at the fact. I'm looking at the fact that Tank, as I said this like before you was on the live, Ken, it's so debatable whether Tank is a one-weight champion or a three-weight champion. It depends what you class as a world title nowadays. But for argument's sake, let's say Tank is a three-weight world champion. He's 130, 135, and 140 now, right? So and Lomachenko is a small lightweight. That was the first fight against Richard Comey for me where he actually looked like a lightweight. Before, he just looked like a blown-up super feather. And I think that it reminds me of it does kind of remind me of a Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight, where you got the boxer versus the puncher. But obviously, Lomachenko's like in comparison a much better boxer than Tyson Fury. But
so is Usyk.
Gervonta Davis can box. Gervonta Davis can box as well as fight. He can set up shots. And that's why I think that at some point he will land. And if he lands clean, I think he could knock out Lomachenko.
You know what?
And go on, mate.
You know what's happened, right? It's brilliant we're having this discussion because I'm thinking of ways where he can't, but there are. You know what? When the fight happens, if it does happen, it'd be a good kind of tactical battle because it's the battle of the southpaws. It's the fighters are incredibly quick. You know, one can be hit, but it's a case where I know for a fact one is so difficult to hit that you'll hit him, but you can't combo him. You can't. It's very hard to combo him, and he's got excellent. Like I said, his feet are so perfect. And another thing as well, it's not a case of knowing. He's basically like a. He's just like a. You get a string, and you get from behind and pull the plug, and he's like boom, boom, boom. He's like ever ready. And Devonta Davis as well. But there's a certain thing where he punches correctly, and he's got excellent combinations where he doesn't relent. He doesn't relent, and he's a very accurate as well with his punching. Mind you, I would say that Richard Comey did help him by fighting that upright style.
Yeah, he did, and that was a perfect case of Richard Comey, and I really did rate Richard Comey. I thought he'd give Loma more problems than he did, but he was just superb performance from Loma. I think that was a big case of Comey not using his attributes because he's a big lightweight compared to a small lightweight in Lomachenko. But his footwork wasn't great, and he was trying so hard to maintain a decent level of footwork that by the fourth, fifth, and definitely sixth round, he was so tired because Lomachenko wears you out mentally and physically. And very quickly, Ken, and then we'll move on to Conor. But what do you make of the fact of Lomachenko pretty much going up to his corner and saying, like, pull your fighter out? What did you make of that?
Well, the fact is that he knew he could knock him out if he wanted to, and because he's punching him so. But at the end of the day, the reason why you do that is because if I look at boxers and I look at fights,
yes,
ordinarily, if you're getting caught by over 40% of the punches, then there's a problem, a medical and physical problem. Now, if he's catching him at will, and he's hitting it, and they are hurtful punches, Lomachenko is within his rights to say, "Hang on here, can't go here. Something's right here. I'm outclassing him. I could hurt him here. He's not bobbing and weaving. I'm punching him through his guard, and I'm hitting him with uppercuts, and I'm hitting him with left hands, which are jolting the head back. He's well within his rights to do that. You know, people could say it's arrogance, blah blah. But at the end of the day, I don't. You know, if your opponent's head is jolted back, then he's entitled. Then it's down to the referee ultimately in the corner. But it really isn't down to Lomachenko. But the sentiment is there. You have to accept that the sentiment's there because it's dangerous. He was caught with punches which were jolting the head back. That is again going to get your senses and it's get your brain injury. It's the brain. No,
I would 100% agree with you there, Ken, if it weren't for the last 3 rounds. Because if it was literally, Loma was throwing the kitchen sink at him in the last 3 rounds. So he weren't just trying to prove that he could outbox him. He wanted to knock him out in the last 3 rounds. So that's why I think a lot of people are saying it was arrogance. And it was because if someone's doing that to you, you'd feel like a right idiot, wouldn't you? If someone's going up to your corner going, pull him out. You'd feel like an idiot. So I think that's a little bit of arrogance from Loma, but I think knowing what could have happened, if something bad had happened, then everyone would be thanking him. So it's one of them ones you can't win, can you?
I think that's the problem with boxers, everything as well now, is that, we are in a situation where, box, all intents and purposes, the good thing about boxing is that it's not like football where you've got back-to-back games with high intensity where I look at footballers and I think, you know what, with the amount of games you're playing in these short amount of time, we are going to see probably more Christian Eriksen situations. We're seeing players now going off with oxygen masks, and we're saying, oh, it's probably heart problems, Lindelof. But in boxing, we don't have that. So maybe, and I think what's happened is that if you are beckoning the corner to stop it, you're losing momentum. You're basically not knocking him out. You're giving that guy enough recovery time and a second wind. And that's what he did. He gave him a second wind. You know what I mean? Yes, he knocked him down to 7th, but in the later rounds, there's no doubt that he cleared his head, and he still wanted to go out in his shield. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's a very, very tough fighter, but sometimes just don't know when to stop it. But we'll move on for someone who did pull a punch that could have definitely been devastating, and I really do respect that from Conor Benn, because after that big 1-2, he could have followed it up because he weren't touching down. He was just shook over, pretty much unconscious.
Come on, we had
big
shit.
Right hand,
but
he pulled it back.
On, I think, but we had British boxing had the situation with like Bradley Skeet and Shiraz, isn't it? So in terms of that, we couldn't have another situation where Conor Benn could be subject to like discussions or possible disqualification. The fact is that it was so down a pipe, and the guy was out. There was no need to like finish him off, because it was right hand straight down a pipe, and it was a very good fight. And Conor Benn, does beat people in front of him. But the biggest elephant in the room is the fighters he fights, like Vargas, who he beat comfortably, and obviously Chris Algieri. They say, yeah, he's fought this one, he's fought that one. Granted, but these fighters ultimately have lost at the highest level. Yes, they got good pedigree, but they haven't got good pedigree winning big fights. If they were champions and they didn't lose to good fighters, Conor Benn wouldn't even be wouldn't be risked against these guys. So you have to put it in perspective in terms of the pedigree, and that's why sometimes you've got to match. You've got to match Conor in a 50-50 fight. Now everyone's talking about Adrian Broner again, a guy from when he lost to Mandana 8 years ago. He's someone who's lost at the highest level. So again, as much as we rate him highly and blah blah, he is not. He is semi gatekeeper territory.
It's a good step up for Benn.
It is all right. Why can't you give him 50? He's fought 20 times. Why can't he have a derby against
I think he needs one more.
Why can't it fight?
I really do think he's.
Fighting with Neeson. It will sell. Well, it will sell tickets.
It will sell
tickets because.
But I don't think I wouldn't like to see it yet. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, but
he's a 50-50. It's definitely a 50-50 fight, but I want one more because I just want Conor to progress.
But what you're going? Yeah, that's the thing. You want Conor to progress, but at this level, he has to be tested now. Everyone's saying he beats him right in front of me, and then we say he's talking about big fight. He's talking about Khan and Brook. These guys are shot fighters. After that, after they've made their dollars, they're retiring.
Massive fight in the UK.
Yeah, it's a massive fight in the UK, but it's not. Conor Benn is not going to learn anything out of that. Why don't you give him a 50-50 fight with David Avanesian? David Avanesian's got a like I said, European title, and Conor Benn has to be. If you say, oh, it'd be a good test for him against Broner, it would be a good test if he goes and fights Garcia. Well, hang on here. How about giving him a 50-50 fight? Because that is a proper test. That is a good test for him. A proper test.
It is a proper test.
Can beat him,
but
he can beat Avanesian. It is a risk.
Yeah, definitely.
But hang on here. You can't preserve a fighter's record. Yes, he might lose, but he might knock him out.
100%. But I just don't want that yet. I think it will still be a 50-50 in a year's time. And quite frankly, I'm looking at Avanesian's side as well at the minute, and I want Avanesian to have a world title fight.
you've got a good point, but one of the things I'm going to question is, why don't we use the Avanesian fight as a playoff for a world title fight? Why not? Avanesian's got a European, and back in the day, the European title, back in the 80s, my time, 70s, 80s, and 90s, before a lot of promoters went into sort of protecting their unbeaten records. The European title was an avenue into the fight. European and the Commonwealth title was an avenue into fight for the world titles. Well, the European title doesn't seem to be. If you look at George Groves fought for had the British and Commonwealth title when he beat James DeGaulle, blah blah blah, and then he fought for the world title against Carl Froch, lost twice. Then he decided he wanted a European title, so he went and fought Rabas and beat him at Wembley on points. So he's basically gone back to the European title when back in the day we were using the European title as a prelude to a world title fight. And I don't see that happening much anymore.
No, we don't see it happening much anymore, but I just still think the guy, he hasn't had an amateur background. I think he's still learning. And the fact that if he stayed the same, because you look at these run of fights since COVID, Formella, Vargas, Granados, and now Algeria. That's a good run. And I think everyone's a little step up. Probably not Vargas, Granados. I think they were about the same level. Maybe Vargas even a little bit better. But and then I do think Algeria was a little step up from them. I think if you look at Formella, which was just over a year ago, I think 14 months ago, 4 fights, he's improved so much. And I just think at the minute, why chuck him in with an Avanesian when he's still improving? I think one more fight. I think Broner's the perfect fight. I really do. I think if you have a Broner fight, and as well, Broner's not just good for his boxing. It's good, and it will build him massively in the US, which will lead him to get a fight against the big boys.
I hear what you're saying, but I think sometimes, we overrate the US market, and I think what's happening, Eddie's thinking, "Oh, I'm the man in the US. I've got all these fighters," and I respect that. But in terms of a test, what's he going to get out of beating Broner?
The name,
right?
The name.
Yeah, he's got a name.
Broner's still a big name.
Yes, he's a big name, but Broner, for me, hasn't. As for me, it hasn't fought that much in the last 2 or 3 years. Most importantly, I will say, and I'll say this without saying this as well. Yeah, he is, in boxing terms, a level below Sean Porter, and
Kenny,
nowhere near the.
You broke up.
Sorry. I'll start again. All right, in boxing terms, he's level below Sean Porter, who just lost. He's just got stopped by Crawford, and he's nowhere near Crawford. So what is Conor Benn going to get out? Going to get out of fighting Broner? Only he's going to fight a guy who was world champion, but has lost, who's been basically on the wane since he lost to the Andre Mandina 8 years ago. So again, you're talking. I'm not saying Broner's a shot fighter. He's got great pedigree, blah blah, but he's not going to get anything out of that. Yes, it's just going to be another victory, but you might as well put it on the same level as beating Vargas and beating Algeria, because all intents and purposes, that's not going to propel him into a world title. That's going to make him a lot of money. That's going to make him money and get him a name.
Yeah, but he will learn stuff from that fight as well.
Fighting for what really is important.
I think he will learn, because he's never fought
a
style like Broner's. He's never fought a style like Broner's. But again, a fight that I would absolutely love, and I think this would be a big step up. But I think, again, really good at time. And Eddie mentioned it. It won't happen, but if they could lure Sean Porter out of retirement. If they could get Sean Porter out of retirement, I know he's only just retired, but if they could I know it won't happen, but
not happening. Not.
I think that'd be perfect, though.
And he'll get battered.
That
as
would
well.
be perfect, but it
He'll
won't
get
happen.
battered. He'll get battered.
Who would
He'll
get
get
battered?
battered. Benn will get battered.
Oh, I don't
Benn
know.
will
I don't
get
know.
absolutely schooled, and to the extent that you risk his development. There's a lot of risk, no reward. I think there's a lot of risk and reward if he fights Avanesian. Massive risks, much bigger rewards than fighting Sean Porter. All he's doing is, I've got him on a belt. I've got him in my name. I've got him on a bedpost or name you want to call it. But where's the pathway to a title? Oh yeah, I've beaten the guy who's just lost to Crawford. I'll fight Broner. Oh yeah, I've just beaten the geezer that lost to Porter. Could beat Brian Mondana and basically isn't like I said, in the mix for a world title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's risk. It's risk, but not much reward. Just building up his name. When is he going to get a title fight? I reckon he's got a quicker. If he fights Evanesian, he's got a much quicker route to getting an Ugas than he will fight those lads. Promise you. Because there is a lot of reward.
Another world title, but not Ugas. Another world title because he's already really high with the WBA and he's had all the WBA Continental. So I think he'd get a Ugas fight. But if it was up to you, Kenny, if it was up to you, what would be the next 3 fights for Conor Benn? If you was Eddie Hearn,
you know me, I'm a football man. I'm a boring football man who says one game at a time, one fight at a time. Yeah. So
your next fight is Davin Avanesian. For you, for you want Davin Avanesian.
And I think what will happen is that will be a great, much more rapid path to what he wants in the world title. He's talking of a world title fight in 2022. I don't see that happening.
Won't happen. It won't happen.
Yeah, I don't see it happening if he's fighting Porter, who'll beat him anyway.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Or Broner. So in that respect, I reckon if he fights Avanesian and beats him, I reckon that he could get himself up the rankings and could propel himself into a title fight. Probably too early for him, but it's a quicker journey than it would be by fighting the reputation, which is a reputation.
Yeah, no.
But then again, we have to agree to disagree.
We agree to disagree. No, it's always the case. We always do, but it's like I think that was a good cover of Benn and where he should go. But I think from what we can both agree on was what a performance from Conor, and excellent I cannot wait to see again.
You beat what's in front of you, and you have to look the part. Look the part. Yes. And one thing is that it's about building profile. Sometimes, there's a lot of fighters out there who don't have good profiles because they don't know how to sell themselves, they don't know how to promote themselves, and they have to do it the hard way. Like Bud's had to do it the hard way. He isn't as flamboyant like his mate from born in New York, but right now living in Dallas, Texas. Benz. He's flamboyant.
Yeah,
he can sell, but not just a burger at McDonald's. He could sell like a cheese. He could sell like the whole menu. I'm not saying Bud can't do it.
No,
but Bud is only marketable because of the people he's beaten and because he's a great fighter. But he's not naturally going to make as much money as someone like a Spence or the fighters before him because the profile.
Agreed. Agreed.
Bob Arum, but there was an element of truth in what Bob Arum said.
Oh, 100%.
Even though,
but no, go on, Ken. Sorry, carry on.
No. What I'm trying to say is that unfortunately, but boxing's like the WWE, not in the fact that it's fake, but there is arse protection when it comes to protecting your unbeaten records, and there is kind of the need to build your name in order to get opportunities. And
definitely.
and make good cash. You know what I mean? You look at Dimitri Andrade, brilliant fighter. You know, but does he put bums in seats? Does he build up his profile?
No.
That's the thing. So he has to. For him to get these big fights, he has to be given an opportunity and beat them, and then people, whoa, they'll take notice because that's what they have to do with Bud.
Yeah, and he's still working with Bud in some sort of respects. He's still having to build. He's still having to work. But we'll move on. Then we spoke about the past. Let's talk about the future. Your favourite man himself, Mr. Derek Chisora. He gets his rematch against Joseph Parker. What do you think, Ken?
You know what? That there is an example of someone who hasn't got the pedigree or, dare we say, the ability of a top class fighter, but he's made an excellent career of himself because he can promote himself. He can sell his fights.
And
what
he's exciting
in the British public. You get excited in the ring, but what he's selling in the British public is, give me one more chance, and I promise you I can fight at that level. And because he delivers and he loses narrowly in quite a lot of fights, we give him these opportunities. You know, in all intents and purposes, if this was like a proper boxing match and genuine ability, Parker wipes the floor with him again on points. This time it probably won't be as close. But because Derek put him on his ass, and because, you know, Derek used the fact that he got a 10-8 in the first round, he's now using he now is selling the fight to the British public. Derek Chisora is probably probably the most marketable, one of the most marketable men in boxing without the actual portfolio. But
yeah,
definitely, he can argue and say, well, yeah, you still have to put me in the A side because people come to watch me fight, and they do.
When you look at profile,
like Dillian White,
he's definitely he's got to be in the top, maybe even the top 5, definitely the top 10 British boxers. When you look at public profile, most known British boxers currently,
because he sells it. He's brilliant for promoters. You know and you won't think about it. Even when he's difficult, he's brilliant.
Yeah. No, because if you look so you got the big three. You got AJ Fury and White, and then underneath that, on marketability and ticket sellers, you'd have to say Conor Benn. I think Conor Benn's a massive name. Amir Khan, he's still big, as it showed with the fight selling out in under 10 minutes. Then you look at. Actually, I'll tell you who I was surprised about getting the general consensus of the public. How many people know Anthony Yard? And that was before the Arthur rematch. A lot of people know Yard.
Well, Anthony Yard, he's the one who's very marketable. Extra, very marketable. And that's the thing. Frank Warren's done a very good job in marketing. You know, yeah. You know what? He's done a very good job in down in Dubai, marketing him very well. He's done a very very good job in marketing Anthony Yard. And let's face it, Anthony Yard, delivered for him by winning that reach match conclusively. I didn't have him winning it, but he won it conclusively, and I think that's what it is. What it is, he is, because of how he fights in his ring. He is what puts bums in seats. And I'll go as far as saying that goes for other you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, Ken, I was at the fight, and it was crazy. It was such a great performance from Yard. No one really believed it. And it was a fantastic night. Obviously, a boxing that one was. But who do you think then wins, Chisora or Parker, and why?
Parker, because Parker's a better fighter and Parker's got great skills. And what will happen is that Derek Chisora just doesn't have what I call effective combinations. He will throw leather, but most of the times he throws leather. It's very easy. He's got flat feet. It's very easy to, use his feints. He's not you know what I mean. You put under great pressure, but he fades.
Yeah.
Another thing as well. He's if you're a decent, if you can box competently, then you'll easily beat him on points because you'll always beat him to the punch and you'll always make yourself difficult to hit. And when he's fought boxers, he's lost.
Yep.
Now the thing is, when he fought Dillian White twice, his biggest problem was Dillian White can fight as well as box, and he's a better boxer than him. So Dillian White mixed it up. So it was Dillian White actually won the fight in Manchester.
But Chisora was winning on points in the second fight.
They say he was winning on points, and maybe so. But what will happen is the Dillian White had the signature punch, which is a left hook.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And he's managed to put him out. So but he won't have that problem with Parker, the aggression to be able to make the thing. But what we will have the problem with Parker is the boxing, where he will be jabbed, he will be outreached, and then what will happen is that Parker will engage and he'll come out. He will engage, Derek will come forward, and he'll be met with a jab and double jab, and then movement. And I think Derek would be. And then what will happen is the Parker can either build a points win or in the later rounds take him out because Derek will be exhausted. The way Derek fights is exhausting. Yes, he does try to go southpaw and he does try to go to the body, but it's slow. It's slow.
Yeah. Does Derek retire on Saturday night?
No, because simple reason is that what will happen, it'll be a close fight and the British public are going to want more.
But if he does lose, where does he go? Who does he fight?
Well, we've been saying that. We've been saying that since he lost to he lost to David A. In July 2012.
Yeah.
9 years later, he's still making money, getting fights.
Big fights as well, but there's for me, win, lose or draw on Saturday. There's one fight that I would always love to see: Derek Chisora versus Joe Joyce. I think that's a great fight, and a really tough learning fight for Joe, because again, he's there to be hit, Joe, but we all know how tough Joe is. So I think that makes for a really good fight. And Fury wants it to happen. Let him fight Fury one last time for the payday. I'd love it. It is what it is. Yeah, Chisora Fury 3. Please. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I do.
We know
I do.
what's going to happen. But Fury wants it.
Yeah, but look. I'm not too funny, right? Haven't we seen enough exhibition fights this year? The only person who's going to promote that fight is Thriller. You know what I mean?
What would you rather, Kenny? Though, what would you rather? Hay Fury or Chisora Fury?
David Hay has been conning the British public for a long time, and I think David Hay should do what he does best and build up other fighters. Stop sitting in limelight. Hang your gloves up, hang your boots up. Don't be one of those people who just think me. It's not about you, David. You said you want to retire before you're 30, before you're 31. You didn't retire, did you? You came back. And then you retired and you came back. All right? It's over, David.
Yeah.
It's over. You've had your time. You've won. You're two-weight world champion. Enjoy yourself. Be the man.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Just enjoy retirement. Let's face it. It's an indictment on you, who's actually won titles, that we'd rather see Chisora than you in the ring again. We don't want to see you in the ring again. We saw what happened with you and Bellew, where you were falling all over all the place, where you're getting caught by punches that you never have got caught by before you retired. Retired in around 2012 after Chisora. You know what? But you're not. So why are you going to fight now, David? It's over, mate. Just manage fighters, make your money, and blah blah. And do your punching, which you're brilliant at. You're brilliant at it. Just leave it to the younger men. Derek Chisora at the moment, for some peculiar reason, i.e., the British public, will get his gig. But there's a time when they are going to say no more. When when Eddie's going to say no more, and then he's going to go to like Ben Shalom, and Ben Shalom will say yes for a few figures, and then when he realizes that he's not marketable, he's going to say no more. So you know what I mean? So that's the thing with Derek. Yeah. Derek Chisora will not win a world title. He will never win a world title. He is not. He is British and European level at best, and even then, he's probably lost. He would lose fights at British and European level now anyway, against a live fighter. Joe Joyce jabs his head off. He'll actually want Derek Chisora to hit him. It's because he'll know that when Derek Chisora drops his punch, he can counter him. So that can he'd probably get knocked out.
Yeah, I just think it's an entertaining fight while it lasts, Ken. But finally, Ken, before we finish up, did you catch Sonny Edwards' fight at the weekend against Jason Mama?
Sadly missed it, and I'm really
Sonny Edwards, he boxed really well, and hopefully he can get a unification fight next year, because I think Sonny is a fighter that's very, 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 very talented. Oh, we just lost Kenny there before we go, but we're just finishing up with Sonny Edwards and how he wants his unification fight next year out in Dubai. He just fought Mama, and let's just quickly wait for Kenny Ken to get back. Hang on, hopefully he'll be back shortly.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Kenny, sorry about that, mate. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you, mate. Can hear you.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Hang on, mate. I can't hear you now. Oh, there you go. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Can you see me though?
Yeah. Yes, I can see you.
Can you see me?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, one of those pork chop chat phone lines called me, and I always say, when I'm doing me lovely podcast, leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Brilliant.
Yeah, but as I was saying before, I managed. I'm sorry to Sonny. I'm a big fan of yours, but I missed your fight.
Yeah. No, that's perfectly fine. I think it was on like Eurosport or something. But two more things to just two very, very, very quick things is in the next couple of weeks we're going to be doing a fighter of the year show. So we'd love to get you on that, Kenny, and we'll do it. Give out the Pep Talk Boys awards. And last but not least, what is happening tomorrow, Kenny? Who is going to win, West Ham or Arsenal?
That's a very good question, because it depends on your tactics. Because I think if Moyes goes for it and you score early, then you'll beat us. But if you don't score early, then we've got a very, very good chance of catching you on a break. We're there to be beaten, because we're going through turmoil. Aubameyang's been stripped to the captaincy, and let's face it, it was rightly so as well.
Yeah.
So most importantly, it's going to be like a very, 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 very hard game for us if West Ham play to the best of their ability. But
we are having a little bad patch, so it could be a good time to play us.
A little bad patch, because common denominator is that Creswell's been out, and then you've got the
Creswell's been our second best player this season, apart from Rice. And you've got fantastic.
Yeah, but you also got the other situation where you've got the issue with Obonna, long-term injury, out for the rest of the season, and you've got Zuma out for 3 months. So your first choice centre backs are not there, but you can rely on Dawson and Diop, but Obonna is a short centre back, and Zuma just covers every base of ground. He's quick, and he's very, very, very good at reading the game. So really and truly, in terms of levels, Diop is still top class for me, but Dawson was really a squad player.
You know what? I'm not actually worried about the defence. I touch wood. I really do like Dawson. I like Diop's. He's brilliant, but he's got a mistake in him every now and then, a big mistake. But for me, the deciding factor on tomorrow is if Antonio puts his arse in gear, because he ain't been performing for probably about 2-3 months now. He had a great start to the season, and now he needs to perform. Because otherwise we're lacking someone in the box. We're lacking someone to really like penetrate the defence. And your defence, I know obviously you've conceded a few recently, but it's good. You've got a good defence, Ken, at the minute.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think what will help you in the game is like if if we're unable to track the runs of Rice and Sochek, because what happens when they make those runs, it enables Antonio to run those channels. It enables Bowen to get in those little pockets, and also it brings out, if you play like Benrahma, gives him like he can be able to stretch teams, and obviously Mazuaku will come forward, and he's a very direct. Obviously, he's not as potent as our good mate Creswell. But most important, one thing is he is effective, and he has got the experience. He's probably like doesn't tend to like get down the byline like Creswell, but he does tend to cut in, and he is, like a good utility man. But I could see Creswell gives you more sort of drive and more pace.
He does. He's direct as well. Creswell's direct. His balls in are phenomenal. I think tomorrow, I think Bowen could trouble use. I'll be honest. I think Bowen's been on form really good. He's been brilliant. Benrahma, I reckon, will be dropped tomorrow. I don't think he'll start because he was quite poor against Burnley. I think Fornals will come in. Fornals, presses.
Another thing as well, you've got Fornals as well, but like Lanzini, he's scored some important goals for you guys. You know what I mean?
He has. He has.
And that's the thing. Off the bench, he is too weak.
Yeah.
But off the bench, that's the situation. You know what I mean?
What's the score prediction for you then tomorrow, Ken? Before we finish.
Well, Moisey's going to come for a point, so I'm going to go 1-1. But I think everyone's got West Ham as favourites. That is an indictment of Arsenal's poor form that you're the favourites.
I think it's a bit of both, Ken. I think it's a bit of both, that we're overachieving and you're underachieving. But I will actually have to agree with you. I think it could be a draw. I think it could be 2-2 though. I think it could be a bit of a score draw tomorrow. But
I don't know, man.
I think
if we get in front, we're going to be difficult to beat. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. I think the first goal will be a very big factor in tomorrow's game, because we do press when we're down, but yous are very good at holding it at the minute. So we'll see. Are you there tomorrow, Ken?
I'm afraid so, mate. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to.
You are there.
Phil.
I was going to be there. I was going to be there, Ken. I was going to be there, but I just missed out on a ticket today. Well, to be fair, it would have been quite.
You got away points then.
Yes, I've got quite a few away points. I just missed out on the the away points for Arsenal was ridiculous. I think it stopped at 27.
We have the same thing as well. But you're right. The biggest elephant in the room is with you guys.
Yeah.
The biggest elephant in the room is in terms of like for all football fans is about these COVID passports. You know what I mean? Because like I said there, so you have to prove your vaccination status and obviously PCR tests. So it's going to be a logistic thing. So I say anyone who's going to any football match, particularly Arsenal, West Ham fans, get your ass home, get your ass in gear quickly. That's what I'd say.
And boxing for Saturday. And if you're at the boxing for Saturday. I think boxing has got its house in order anyway. But get there pretty sharpish. Yeah, have your lateral flows if you ain't been vaccinated and all that sort of stuff. But thank you very much for joining us, Ken, today. And
thank you. I really enjoyed myself, and I'll definitely, like I said, it's that time of year. I definitely would like to get there a lot earlier than normal. You know what I mean?
No, definitely no. No, we'll have a good chat. We'll get Jay on at some point, and we'll definitely do the awards. Talk about the best fights of the year. Talk about the fighters of the year, and it'll be good. But Kenny, where can
How is
people
Jay
find you?
anyway?
Oh yeah, no, Jay's good. Jay's good.
Mm.
But I think he done a watch
On
along on
Instagram
Saturday.
on Instagram and
Go on,
Twitter.
Yep.
Instagram and Twitter is at Kenny Ken 1972. Instagram and Twitter.
Brilliant. You can catch me at Joe Pugh Boxing on Twitter and Joe Pugh 1309 on Instagram.
Good man.
And make sure you check out Pet Talk Boys. Got another interview with the Romford Bull, Johnny Fisher, coming out tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. And we will speak to you soon. See you later, Ken.
See you, mate.
See you.